Hey everybody, it has been more than a minute. I'll get into some things, but like right now, I can't really. The DJI camera is over there. Let's move this down some. Hey everybody. Not really gonna focus on the camera. Osmo is hanging from my windshield on a suction mount, but also I can't like see out of my right eye right now, so like I can barely tell where the camera is or what's going on. So I'm gonna hope that everything's good, and then if I have to look, I gotta turn like my whole head. But I haven't done a video. Like I've done some vlogs. Like I think I started a vlogging channel where I did like a couple vlogs with the kids and stuff. Really thought I was going to be able to keep that momentum going, but with with the cancer and everything, it's just difficult to really gain any consistency for a multitude of reasons. You know, whether it's not feeling good or not really wanting to put my face out there, with how I am or whatever. But like with this one, I just figured I haven't done a video like explaining everything, I don't think. So I sort of wanted to like rewind back to the beginning, give you like a very quick, like an overview of what's been going on, sort of where I've been, what's been going on, and where I'm at right now. Technically where I'm at right now is in Detroit. I'm driving to go get Grace, where I live, and then where they live and their mother lives. Halfway is about Ann Arbor, so we meet at a mall out there. So like Friday evenings, this is usually my routine. I'm looking at the traffic on the other side, coming back, and it's freaking backed up, which is always the case. Like I'll pick them up. Today's just Grace, but I'll pick up the kids at like 5, and then we won't make it home till like 7, 8 o'clock or whatever, because traffic's just always shit coming back the other way. So anyways, to get into the whole cancer thing and sort of what's been going on and where I've been and why I haven't, posted much. I post a little bit on social media. Every once in a while I'll give like an update or something, or share like the GoFundMe that I started. I'll leave a link for that below, because I do updates on there. But not a lot of people. I don't expect anything from anybody when it comes to that, but it is where I do like updates every so often. And I figured I would do one, video to sort of catch up, and then that way from here I could do maybe shorter videos that sort of explain if something happens or whatever. But I wanted to put like a long form one out that explains sort of from beginning to now where I'm at. So if you rewind back to, I think it was like November, pretty much fall of 2022, I was still married, and I had felt like a lump, like on my right nipple, not on it, but like behind it. And I was like, maybe this is something, maybe not. But I ended up going to the doctor out where I lived in Brooklyn. And the doctor was somewhere else, but I lived in Brooklyn, and I went to a doctor. It was a U of M affiliated, doctor. And they sort of, I don't want to say they blew it off, because that's not really fair, I guess. But they made me feel like it wasn't that big of a deal. And looking back on it and looking through some documentation or whatever, they had told me to go get an ultrasound. And at that time, like many men, you get like something like that, and if they don't tell you like, hey, you need to get this or whatever, you're just like, it's probably not that big of a deal, because they had said it's probably like a cyst or something. So in my head, it was like, oh, this is not that big of a deal, I'm not going to really worry about it. And quite honestly, part of me was like, well, if I need this ultrasound, they'll set it up and reach out to me, and then I'll go in and get it and blah blah blah. Well, now fast forward, to, let's see, I think it was beginning of April when my wife, like I was on my way home and she texts me and says, hey, I want a divorce. I'm not going to get into that whole thing, the divorce and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole different subject and really has nothing really to do with the illness and the disease that I have or whatever. So anyway, so that happens. I literally did not eat anything for almost a full 2 weeks. I mean, I would like nibble on something and then get sick. It was really, really bad. I mean, to be quite honest, I'm still not 100% over all that. But again, that's a separate thing. So anyway, so I started losing weight, obviously. And looking back, I was like at 305 pounds when I was married, we were together. I guess you're just fat and content or whatever. I mean, there was a time where the year before that, I was going to the gym and, it got difficult because where I was there geographically, I was 2 hours away from my work. And I would have to drive to work. At that time, earlier in 2022, I was going 5 days a week because I just had to be at work. The time of the divorce, in that time frame, I had to be at work 3 days a week. I would go in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I could work from home Tuesday and Thursday. But it was 2 hours one way. And then on the way home, if anything happened, any snafu, on the way there wasn't too bad because I left so early. But on the way home, one snafu, you're stuck in traffic forever. So it was like, but it was a 4 hour round trip just takes a lot out of you 3 days a week, 5 days a week, whatever, time frame. So it got to be to the point, I just wasn't doing anything. So anyways, started losing a bunch of weight. And then, I'm thinking, well, shit, I've lost this much weight. I'm going to start hitting the gym and keep the momentum going. Now, granted, not a momentum that I wanted, not a momentum that I would hope for anyone. But, I'm trying to look at the glass half full. I'm like, hey, lost a bunch of weight. Let's keep it going. So I started going to the gym. I got down to about 250. I think I was right around there. Ideally I was pushing for like 220, 210, obviously, lean and more muscle than fat, obviously. But again, beside the fact. So I lost all that weight. And once I lost that weight, that lump in my right chest became more prominent, right? So it was like, I started feeling it more. So now I'm living, more towards the city, towards, civilization, as I, just joking. But, so I went back to my old primary that from when we lived in Rochester Hills, from a few years before that time. So now you're talking like June of 2023, I go to the doctor and she's like, yeah, we should send you in for, a mammogram and a biopsy. And, as a dude, you're just like, oh man, a mammogram, whatever. And so I went in for that and it was beginning of, I think it was, literally the beginning of August, I got the call like, okay, this is cancer. So then there's a bunch of stuff that go, then she recommends an oncologist, and then that oncologist does some testing, and then you go meet, the surgeon, and like I met everybody at one time because they started putting a plan together. Then I start, you go get MRIs and CAT scans and PET scans and all that kind of stuff so they can figure out exactly, is it local to that area, what's going on, whatever. I remember I was at work when I got the call. Actually, it was, obviously everything comes through my chart, at least here in the U.S. Like, I can look, and it gives you test results or whatever. And I looked at it, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't look good, because it was saying all this stuff. So I reached out to my doctor, called me back, like, right away. And it ended up being, like, right from the jump, stage 4 cancer, breast cancer. And again, you think as a dude, breast cancer, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, as I've learned, it's way more common in men than what you would think. That didn't stop me from like joking anytime I could to be like, hey, can we call it chest cancer? You know, anytime I made that joke, the doctors would just look at me and be like, shut up. Like, it's breast cancer. So anyways, the reason why it was stage 4 is because it already had metastasized and moved around. So it was in that lump area that I had felt, but then it was also in my lymph nodes under my right arm. It was in the soft tissue around my heart. It was around. Now granted, a lot of that, I don't know if a lot of it or whatever, and I've talked to the doctor about this, and he's like, you'll never know, but obviously you want to get treatment and find out, get a diagnosis as early as possible. So, you know, do I wish two things? Do I wish I would have taken the original doctor's, you know, thing to go say, hey, go get a ultrasound? Do I wish I would have taken that more seriously and went like right away? Yes. Do I also wish that doctor would have sort of pushed it a little bit more and said, hey, this may just be a cyst or something, but this could be something way worse. So let's get you in and let's get this going? Yes. But that's in the past. It is what it is, and I don't look back on it and, you know, and like, you know, worry about it or ruminate on it or anything like that. So after I, you know, like I said, I got the mammogram, they tell me it's this, they tell me it's stage 4, we get a plan together, and I mean, it's like almost right away or within a few weeks, I start getting chemotherapy. And, you know, that starts going, I had surgery, I think like a week or two later, where they put like a port in you, which is just like a medical device to where they can like plug in, and it's basically up here on my left upper chest area, like below my collarbone, and it's got like tubes that go directly into like your heart area. I think it's more like the arteries. Anyways, it's so like when they put the chemo medicine in, it goes directly into the blood flow, right? So it's like there's no like screwing around. It's like boom, it's right in there. So I did chemotherapy, so that's August 2023, all the way until end of January 2024. Beginning of January 2024. And then I had like 2 months off because I needed to heal, because the plan was to go to chemotherapy, try to shrink the main tumor and the lymph node stuff as much as possible, and then go have surgery to remove those, and then have radiation after that to sort of kill any residual stuff, and then see what's going on after that, hopefully for the best. But, you know, you hear stage 4 cancer, that's not the best, you know, thing to hear. So yeah, I rest until the end of like February, then I have surgery. They remove everything. Hey, everything went good. We got everything out. Doesn't look like there's any cancer in that area left over, blah, blah, blah. I heal from the surgery. I go all the way until almost August again of the following year, that year. So that's August of 2024 now, a year after diagnosis. And then the doctor's like, hey, you know, I had an MR or a PET scan. They're like, hey, we see that the cancer is back in, you know, there's spots on your lungs, it's around your heart again. Didn't seem to be in the areas that I had the surgery and the radiation. I should have said that I had radiation starting in the summer, which was pretty rough. It was 5 days a week, I think for 3 or 4 weeks. And it was like the most that you could have, but it just tore my skin up. It was like having, like, the way I describe it to people is like having the worst sunburn you could ever imagine. Blistering skin, like everything. And then like the next day you wake up and you're like, oh, back to the beach, you know, back to the sun. And that's what I had to do like every day, is like just go back, get the radiation again, you know, whatever. So anyway, so it comes back in the areas that weren't, you know, radiated and surgery and all that stuff. So then I start chemo again. And that's, again, like I said, August 2024. Chemo going, all that stuff. Stay on chemo. And then it starts just moving around. You know, we change chemo, I don't know, 3-4 different times, different chemo medicines. And, you know, throughout the whole time, it's just really rough. You know, I mean, you lose your hair, you lose like your eyebrows. Like my eyebrows just start coming back in like a couple weeks ago, and that was another reason why I'm like, and like my mustache, my beard, and it's so weird. Like you lose all this stuff. You don't have like your beard and mustache for like the longest time, and then it starts coming back in, and it's like all white, and you're like, okay, is that coming in because your hair, like, it feels different? It's like super soft and like doesn't feel like my beard. But that's what happens after chemo. It's almost like you're getting like baby hair again. So it's like super soft, and it's like, okay, well, is my hair and my beard white because of the chemotherapy, or is it like, did I not have hair so long at this stage in my life that it would have turned white anyways, like if I didn't have chemo or cancer or anything? So it's like, it's just weird when it finally comes back and it's different, right? So it's just another weird thing to deal with. And throughout the whole time, obviously I have 2 older sons that are in their early 30s, and then I have obviously my kids that have been on the channel and stuff a ton, Miles, Sawyer, and Grace, that, you know, right now they're 9, 13, and 16, but you're talking, you know, when I was diagnosed, we're talking like, you know, 10, 13, and 6 or whatever, 7. So anyway, so we go through all this stuff, and, you know, I got support from my family, which is great. Support from the kids. You know, I still like try to joke with them about everything and just make it as light as possible, because it's fucking heavy. Like, it's very heavy, and it's very rough on kids at that age. So I'm trying not to put, you know, and I'm very positive about everything as well, because it's just like, you know, what I always tell everybody is like, man, if you would have told like 15-year-old Larry that was like, you know, out of his house and living on the streets at 15, that he'll live to, you know, I'm going to be 50 in a few months, that I'd live to, you know, I think I was 48 when I got diagnosed. So, hey, you're going to live to 48, but you're going to end up getting a disease or whatever, but you're going to have what would have essentially been a fantastic life. You know what I mean? I got 5 amazing kids. I had, you know, for the most part, I thought I had an amazing marriage. At least our time, you know, in my mind. I'm sure she has a different story of it, but it was like, it was a great chunk of time. I mean, I have my 3 youngest kids from, so I'll never regret it. So it's like, you know, great career, great job. I work for a great company whose, side note, is like taking care of me beyond belief during all this, which is like, you hear horror stories of that, and I have like the opposite. So I'm blessed in that way as well. So anyway, so, you know, all that stuff happens, and there's a lot of stuff, you know, I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but like, you know, side effects from chemo and just a bunch of different stuff. Well, then you fast forward to earlier this year, I go to see my oncologist, like, hey, let's send you down to see this other specialist down in Detroit, who's like, I think it's called Carmana, and it's like a world or nationally renowned cancer institute. So I go see him because the cancer had spread to my bones. So it was in like my lower back, some of my upper vertebrae, my hip, and there was a lot of pain with that, and there still is, but it's like, it's manageable. And by manageable, I mean I just sort of deal with it. I have like pain meds, and I'm just not a big fan of, you know, taking medication all the time or whatever. I mean, need it at some point, so I think I'm just sort of holding out until when I can't handle it anymore. So anyways, go to see him, and his thing is like, hey, you know, because I asked him flat out, like, okay, it's in my bones. Is that like, you know, from 1 to 10, 10 being like, oh shit, you're screwed, where does this fall? And he's like, it being in your bones isn't that bad. He's like, it's mostly pain, and radiation can take care of that, and we're looking into that now as like a side note. Maybe I'll have radiation to sort of kill the cancer that's in there, just to help with the pain. But he's like, until it gets into like your, you know, was it the kidney? I think it was your kidney, your brain, you know, like your major organs, we're not going to worry too much. Okay. Fast forward a little bit, I started having some issues with my eye, my right eye. Like I'm not, like my vision's not, something's up with it, right? So I ended up going to a specialist. I'm in the hospital for a couple days, They can't find anything wrong. MRIs, whatever. A couple weeks later, I go see a specialist. And they end up trying to get over. So it's like a cop coming. So I go see a specialist. They she says, okay, I need you to go see a retinal specialist. So the next day or a couple days later, I go see that specialist. Let's make sure this cop ain't pulling me over. No, he's getting somebody else. No? Yeah, he got somebody else. Okay, so anyways, not planning on editing this video down at all, so all this shit will be in there. Curse words and all, whatever. So they start doing like an ultrasound on my eye, which I didn't even know you could do. Doing all this testing. I'm there for like half a day. Come to find out, they find a tumor in my eye, in my retina. It's only like 1 millimeter or something, but there's fluid built up. That's the issue. I'm having an issue with the vision, whatever. So it's like, okay, we're gonna have to do like a laser treatment on it where we can break up the tumor, blah blah blah. We'll do that in a couple weeks or whatever. In the meantime, you should get an MRI in your brain because there's a tumor in your eye that's very close to your brain. We want to make sure that we don't have any issues. And I'm like, it'll be fine. This is like a Wednesday or something. I think I find this out. They set up an MRI. I go on Saturday. But again, I was just at the hospital. They did MRIs, on my brain and everything, found nothing. So that was just like 3 weeks ago, maybe a month from this time. So I'm like, they're not going to find shit. I'm not too worried about it. So I go in, blah, blah, blah. Later on that afternoon, I get the my chart thing again. And I look, they found 4 tumors in my brain. Now, granted, they're all small, a couple millimeters here, 3 millimeters. I think the biggest one was like 4 millimeters or something like that, 3 millimeters. So again, I'm like, shit. Now I'm thinking about what that specialist said once it's in your brain, So then we start the planning for that. And so I go see the radiologist, and he's like, okay, there's something we're going to do called a gamma knife procedure where we basically like lock your head into like this halo thing. They put like 4 bolts in to push it up against my skull so that way they can lock me in the machine and my head doesn't move. And it's a very precise radiation, which I thought when they were going to radiate, it would be like it was before. I go in 5 days a week and all this shit. And he's like, no, it's a one shot. You go in the morning, it takes like almost a day by the time they do everything because you got to have like another MRI, CAT scan, all this stuff. And they do the MRI, a more detailed one to see exactly the positions of them. I have the halo on, so they lock you in place, do all that. So I go in for that. They put the freaking thing on. If I actually edit some, I'll drop some pictures in here of what it looked like. And so then they give me the MRI, and again, I'm locked in for this MRI, and the MRI is a more detailed one than the one that I had when they found the 4. So he comes in and he's like, hey, we found 2 more tumors. So there's 6 tumors total. And he's like, don't worry, I can still knock them all out. We're fine. Don't worry. We're going to treat all of them. Okay. So they do that. A couple days later, the next day I go in for the eye thing. I had the actual laser treatment on Wednesday. I did the gamma thing on Monday. Luckily, no side effects from that because, you're talking like you're screwing with your brain. It's, stroke. There's all kinds of things that could happen. Luckily, knock on wood, I haven't had any side effects from that. They said that there could be, something that, they could come back. There could be, all this different stuff. So I got to go like every 3 months to have a brain MRI to make sure, that nothing comes back, or if it does, that we can treat it again. Hopefully it doesn't, because it was not a fun day. It wasn't bad. They made the joke about, or they made a comment about how I joke like the whole, like through all this shit and like, putting the screws in, like all this stuff, and how I look like a Timu Frankenstein, all this, and they're just like, dude, like nobody jokes around, like what? And I'm just like, I'm not gonna lose me because of all this shit that's going on. So, I've had a good positive, like my therapist has even said before, like what the heck, and my mom has been like, why don't you get mad and get pissed or whatever? And it's just like, it's not going to help anything. So it's like I try to be as positive as I can. And I mean, you would think like I'm alone, except for if I have my kids. I'm pretty much alone all the time. And I never find myself like spiraling or anything like that. I try to keep myself up and, you know, not like pat myself on the back or anything, but it's like, it's a big thing to be positive, I think, in situations like this. So I go to have the laser treatment done on the eye, and it's supposed to be like, he told me 88 seconds. I'm like, okay. Ends up being, they had to do it 88 seconds times 10, because they had to do 10 different laser treatments to try to break it up to such a big area where everything was, or whatever. So that really screwed me up. That I had a bad reaction to that. I know on the GoFundMe thing I put like some pictures up, but again, if I edit this at all, I'll put the pictures up here of what it looked like. But my eye was pretty much like swole shut, and it like hurt to even for it to move around. And that was like about a month ago, and like I still can, like, there's a big black area in this eye. I can see like the top area, but it's all like blurry as shit. Like it's like not, I'm basically like one eye Willie over here. So, but anyways, so that's where we're at. And the worst thing that's happened, I don't want to say the worst thing, but like once I found out about the eye and the brain, and we had a plan on what we were going to do, I finally told my kids, all of them. And my older son I can call. I mean, he's 31, and it's like, you know, you can have that conversation over the phone or whatever. But the young ones, I wanted to make sure I did it face-to-face. And granted, with the older ones, I should probably do face-to-face as well. But, I mean, he has his life, and, you know, I'm trying not to be like a burden on anybody. So, even though he wants to be, like, super involved. So the little ones, Miles had a band competition, or a band concert. And I went out to that, and then afterwards I took, you know, him and Sawyer and Grayson all sat in my truck before I drove them home. And it was the first time like I had told them, and they had all just broke down and were crying. And it was the first time it was like really rough. Because it's like, I tell this to people who ask me, and it's like, I'm not worried about passing away. I'm worried about what it's going to do to the kids. So I fight my ass off, you know, whether the treatment sucks and it like kicks my ass or whatever happens, like I do it because I want to be around as long as I possibly can for the kids. So anyways, a few weeks ago I started on, they decided that they did a blood biopsy and found that like all the new things that were popping up, the brain, the eye, all this stuff was linked to like an offshoot. The original cancer is one type of cancer. I'm not going to get into like what it is and like the name of it and all that stuff, but there's it metastasized to a different like version of it that you have to use different medicines and different chemo to fight. So the one stuff was sort of being handled at bay, but the new stuff that was popping up needed a different treatment. So we stopped the chemo and they put me on hormone therapy, which is why like my face is breaking out and like, you know, it's like basically puts like a dude through like, they said it's like male menopause. Like I'll get like hot flashes and like my finger, this was with the other chemo too, but my fingers are numb, my hands, my feet are numb, so I have like a hard time balancing sometimes and walking a little bit. And so they put me on, it's like I take these one pill twice a day, or this one medicine, it's a pill twice a day, and then another pill, and I take medicine. It's supposed to help with the numbing of the feet or whatever. But like the one pills that I take twice a day are like, it's like $15,000 a month. Luckily I have insurance, ran it through insurance. They're like, okay, your copay is $2,000 a month. And I'm like, it's no wonder like people just like, you know, it just sucks for people that don't have insurance and don't, you know, and we're in America, we're like, you fighting to so people can stay on, government assisted healthcare, and people are trying to take it. It's just being in my position and going through what I'm going through. It's I have such empathy for anybody going through this period, but I couldn't imagine if I didn't have the company that I work for taking care of me the way they do. And I'm not going to get into all that, but the insurance that I have from them as well. So anyways, the $2,000 a month, I'm I can't afford that. And they're okay, well, call the actual drug manufacturer, which is Lilly, and call them, and they have a copay assistance, whatever, and maybe it'll drop down to a more manageable thing. And I called them, they walked me through some stuff online, blah, 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 ends up $0 out of pocket. I don't know how long that'll last, because I don't know how long I'm going to be on this, but again, super grateful that's how that worked out. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm on that medication. I get I'll have a PET scan in a couple months, see how it's doing, MRI in a couple months, see how the brain's doing, just see how things are going. And it's, in this medicine, aside from those things that I mentioned, like acne and that's not that big of a deal, but there's at least 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a day or more, I'll get these, what feels like a panic attack. And I use my Apple Watch and I check, and I'm not my heart rate isn't going crazy. There's nothing anything go. It's just it must just be a feeling that you get from this medicine. And the fatigue is insane. I'll take these pills and then just be out of it. And another side effect of everything, and I don't know if it's from the medication or just mentally dealing with everything, is I only get 4 hours of sleep on average, plus or minus. A good day would be maybe 5 if I'm lucky. But I know your body needs sleep to heal. So, and I know I have this sleep apnea thing, which I've never had diagnosed. So I did a sleep study a month ago. So I'm working on getting the CPAP machine. I went in for the follow-up for that yesterday. And then I just lost my train of thought there. Oh, so I'm trying to do as much as I can. So then last night it sort of hit me without having a chemo and not being getting physically sick. I mean, one of the side effects for this medicine is I'm not gonna get into it, but because it's almost embarrassing, but it's there's some bad stuff that can make it where you don't want to leave the house because you could have issues, and just say you need to be by the bathroom. And but last night I'm man, I could get around and move, and I need to move, because another thing is you gain weight on this medicine too, because I was down to 250, and not from a healthy way. I was having issues with the chemo that I was on and couldn't eat. But I was man, this feels like a good weight. I feel good, whatever. You know what I mean? Not holding that weight. But then now I put on a little bit more weight because this medicine puts it on, and you're constantly hungry, and so I was man, I'm gonna go back to the gym and not do anything crazy or whatever. So today was the first day I went back, and probably it's been well over a year. I think I went on that in-between time when I didn't have chemo and before radiation and that stuff. So that's when I went to a treadmill for 30 minutes, just trying to get some movement, right? And just blood flow, and but the main reason I'm doing it is so I'm hoping that it'll help me sleep at night, that it'll wear me out enough, which it did. Trust me, when I got home I was tired. So I'm hoping that they could be on, but I hope that translates into the evening, at night, to where I can get some extra sleep. Because it's saying I should get obviously 8 hours or whatever, but everything that I'm tracking and all my sleep thing says I need 9 or more. And I know, again, like I said, the body needs to heal while you sleep and all that stuff. So I'm hoping that that'll help, and I'm hoping that I can keep up with it. And like I said, not to lose weight, but maybe hopefully maintain, and again, hopefully it'll help me, wear me out to sleep. So that's where we're at right now. I mean, it's, December 5th. So it's holidays are coming up, and that has its own stress that, brings. And so I'm trying not to let that stress me, and just sort of do what I can do. And, yeah. So that's where I'm at. So that's sort of like the rough. I know it's a long ass video, but that, and I don't expect anybody to watch the whole thing. But if anybody's ever interested, this will be up, and that'll, like, you know, whatever. So from here now I can just do maybe just smaller updates, you know, as things come up. You know, quick video here and there, as long as I'm comfortable and I'm able to do it. So I think that's going to be it. If you guys got any comments or anything, you can leave them. I'll answer anything. I'm not going to hide anything. I've never tried to hide anything online or social media. I try to be as honest as I can, and that's not going to stop now. I always get lots of messages from people on, like, Instagram and stuff, and I'm so appreciative to the people that, like, still rock with me. And, like, there's companies that still, like, send me stuff, even though I tell them, like, look, I'm not really doing videos that much anymore, but they're like, it's all good, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a blessing to the people that I met, you know. People that I met online have, like, reached out to me, or, like, you know, contributed to, like, the GoFundMe. And again, I don't expect anybody to do that. I've just been like, I'll update it there. And a lot of what I do is I just, like, ramble into ChatGPT or something, but, like, hey, can you make this, like, into something that I can post that makes sense, you know? So anyways, yeah, I just feel like super, it's a weird thing to say, but I feel super blessed to have the people around me that I have, to have the people, strangers that reach out to me because of YouTube and stuff like that. And, you know, my kids, like, I'm just like, it's just, it sucks, but it's okay. And, like I said, I feel blessed. I feel blessed that I've had, since I've been diagnosed, you know, August 2026 will be 3 years. So I'm, you know, to have that much time with the kids and, you know, with life, you know, again, I know it's weird to say, but I feel blessed. And, again, if anybody has any questions or anything they're curious about, just hit me up. Whether you do it here or just you can DM me if it's something you want to know privately on Instagram. It's open over there. So but I think that's it. I'm gonna sort of end this here. I'm almost go get Gracie, and we're gonna have a nice chill weekend. Maybe go see some Zootopia 2 or something. But I hope everybody out there is good. I'm good, you know, as good as you can be. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later.